it's Tina and I am back, and I am doing something a little bit different this year on my channel. I decided to go ahead and start doing swatch videos for you guys. Just swatch videos without the whole review. Just because I tend to do a lot of swatches, and I do swatches up front before I play with the products and get to really test them out and give you a full-on review. So I'll have the swatches sitting down just waiting for the review to be done, and it can take me weeks, sometimes months, to get to the actual review. So I thought I'd go ahead and just showcase the swatches themselves so you guys can get a feel for the products, see the pigmentation, see how they apply, see the different colors, so you can determine maybe you don't have to wait for the review to reach out and get these products yourself. Maybe they interest you just by the swatches. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start sharing swatches of eyeshadow palettes and various eyeshadow products mainly, maybe blushes as well and contour products, just so you can get a feel for the products up front before I get into the full-on review. And for this video, I am gonna show you my Viseart eyeshadow palettes, and I have 7 of them, and there are 7 available now. There are a couple that were available before and discontinued. They've also taken a couple off the shelves and are reformulating them, so stay tuned. They're upcoming palettes, but for right now I have 7 of these to share with you, and we're gonna go into the swatches of all 7 of them. And really quickly, these are now available on Sephora and on Beautylish, which are more consumer friendly. These palettes, the Viseart brand is more of a pro makeup artist oriented brand. So it was available at Friends Beauty Supply, Nigel's Beauty Emporium, Alcone, and Camera Ready Cosmetics. So you can find it at those pro makeup artist supply stores, so both online and in store. But they've kind of snuck in and taken the mainstream market by storm. So everyday consumers are now more interested in these. So again, you can check them out on those pro makeup websites, but you can also find them online at Sephora and Beautylish.com, and they're retailing for $80 each, and that is a very steep price, but they're $80 each, and you get 12 eyeshadows in each, and each of these eyeshadows are 0.07 ounces, so you're getting a bit more product than the typical small eyeshadow on the market. So a MAC eyeshadow or an Urban Decay small eyeshadow is 0.05 ounce, but you're getting 0.07 ounces here. So keep that in mind. You are getting 12 shades for the price. And just a little tidbit, you can grab these at alcone.com for $75, so you can save $5 there. Cause yeah, that's where I got the majority of my palettes. I ordered them on alcone.com, and I also picked them up at the makeup show where you get a discounted price. So I'm gonna stop rambling now, and we're gonna jump into the swatches, and I'll talk to you soon.
We're going to start out with the Neutral Mattes palette 01, which is the most popular of all the palettes. It's just a matte neutral palette, as the name suggests. First up, we have this orangey toned brown shade. It has good pigmentation, good color payoff, and it's very smooth when applied. This shade is a lighter brown shade, more of a caramel brown, and this one is great for blending in the crease area if you have medium skin tone. Then this color is a light peachy beige shade, has good pigmentation, very smooth and buildable. Then we have a light ivory shade. This one has decent color payoff, but you do have to build it up to get rich pigmentation. Here we have a nice red tone, deep espresso brown, has great color payoff, rich pigmentation. Next up is a matte, deep burnt orange shade. This one is a true orange, great for those who like an orange to blend in the crease for neutral looks. Next we have a medium toned rusty brown shade. Great pigmentation again, applies smoothly and evenly without being patchy. Here we have a medium toned neutral brown. This one would be great again for blending in the crease area for neutral looks. Then we have the matte black shade in the palette, which is a rich sooty black shade. It's not the most pigmented black, but it applies evenly, smoothly with great pigmentation. Then we have a matte cement gray shade in the palette. Again, great pigmentation. It has more of a neutral undertone. And here we have another medium tone brown shade. This one has a little bit of a purple undertone to it. And then last up we have a medium tone brown that's a little bit warmer and a little bit deeper than the middle shades that we used for blending. So again, here are those 12 shades swatched. All these shades have great color payoff, good pigmentation, apply smoothly without being patchy. Here we have the Bridal number 3 palette, which has nice pretty shades. They're very pretty shades for a bride, but they're subtle and understated. So let's jump into the swatches. First up, we have this light icy yellow gold shade. It's meant as a highlight shade, but it has decent pigmentation and you can definitely build it up or use it wet for more intensity. This shade is a light silver shade, great color payoff in one swipe. Here we have a light baby pink shade. This one has good pigmentation, and even though it's a light shade, that pink color actually still shows up very well. Here we have a shimmery light blue shade. This one is more of a sky blue. It's a gorgeous shade and the color payoff is pretty decent. Next we have a light shimmery orange shade. This one takes a little bit of building up, but it has good pigmentation and it applies well when you build it up. Next up is this taupey bronze shade, has good pigmentation and good color payoff. Here we have a bright violet purple shade. It has good pigmentation, nice color payoff again. Here we have a deep blue navy shade, has good pigmentation and nice payoff. Now we have this kind of dusty vintage gold shade. It's a very subtle shade. It's good for an all over lid color, but it's not really a pretty shade or an outstanding shade to me. Then we have this red tone bronzy shade. This one has good pigmentation too, but it's not really a different shade or impressive shade, but it's good for neutral looks. This shade is a deeper purple shade. It has a stronger kind of burgundy undertone than the bright purple that we swatched before. And then last up in the palette is this shimmery black shade, which doesn't have the greatest pigmentation. It comes off more of like a sooty charcoal, and it's very powdery. So here go all 12 shades of this palette swatched, and we have an assortment of shades from really light highlight shades to medium tone colors to deeper shades. I think the deeper shades aren't as pretty as the lighter shades, but it depends on your preference. Personally, I like about half the colors in this palette. The other ones aren't that interesting to me. Some of them aren't that pretty either, but this is the Bridal number 3 palette for reference. Next we have the Paris Muse number 6 palette. This is just subtle, understated nude shades. This is not my favorite palette, but others may love it. First up is this shimmery, dusty rose shade. It's a very pale, neutral shade with rosy undertones. It can be used as a highlight. Then we have this shimmery, icy yellow gold shade. This one has a lot of glitter and a lot of fallout, so it's not my favorite shade of the palette. Then we have this peachy melon shade. This one is a pretty color, has decent color payoff. Here is another one of those shimmery, glittery shades. This one has more of a peach undertone, and again, the glitter is chunky and there's a lot of fallout. Here is a mauvey rose shade. Not my favorite shade because I don't think it's very flattering or it looks very nice on my skin tone. It is kind of a orangey, mauvey rose shade. It's difficult to describe. Then we have another peachy champagne shade. This one is a little bit more muted than the melon shade we swatched before. This one doesn't look that great on my skin tone again. It actually comes off muddy and a little bit dirty. Here we have a rusty bronze shade. This one has decent color payoff. Again, this row of shades, they're not colors I would gravitate towards. So far, the palette is not my favorite. Then we have this shimmery kind of sandy khaki shade. It would probably work well as a blend-in or transition shade. This is a dusty lavender shade. This one has decent color payoff. It's a decent color, but it's very muted and understated on my skin tone. And here's a deeper khaki sandy shade again. It's more of a light taupe shade. And here we have a deeper bronze shade from the palette. This one is more of a taupey bronze. So you definitely see a silver undertone. And last up we have this kind of dusty mauvey purple. Here we have all the colors of the Paris Muse palette, and all the shades are very muted, understated, neutral tones. I would not reach for this palette at all, just looking at the colors themselves. They're not really nice shades on my skin tone. Maybe someone else might like them, but for me, the shades just come off a little bit too dusty and muddy looking on my skin. Then we have the number 5 Sultry Muse palette, which are more understated nude shades, but it's a little better than the Paris Muse. The first shade is a icy, light white shimmery shade. This one has a bunch of glitter in it, so there's a lot of fallout to it, but if you really press your brush on your lid, then you'll minimize the fallout. Next is a golden bronzy shade, which has good pigmentation in one swipe. Here we have a chunky light champagne shade. Again, this one has that chunky glitter in it, so you have to be careful with fallout with this shade. Here we have a light champagne shade. Again, it's very similar to the other shade in the palette. It's just a highlight shade. It's a little bit deeper. This shade is a red tone coppery shade. Has good pigmentation in one swipe. Next is a deep bronze shade. This has good pigmentation again in one swipe. Here we have a shimmery orange copper shade. Takes a little bit to build up, but it has decent payoff once you do 2 swipes. This shade here is a red tone shimmery brown shade. Has decent color payoff again. This one is a light blue shade with a ton of silver shimmer. Again, this one is one of those glittery shades that's going to be prone to fallout, but it has good pigmentation for the shade that it is. Here we have a light shimmery peachy champagne shade. Then we have a deep sooty charcoal shade. This one has nice color payoff and it would make a great smoky eye. Then here we have a light golden champagne color. It's a muted champagne, so it would make a great neutral look. This palette, again, doesn't have the prettiest shades. They have decent color payoff. There are 3 or 4 shades that have that chunky glitter in it, so they're prone to fallout. Again, not my favorite palette of the set, but it's prettier than the Paris Nude palette. Next, we're moving on to the 07 Cool Matte palette, which has, as the name suggests, matte cool tone shades. So you'll get a lot of purple undertones, blue undertones, and gray undertones here. We're starting out with the first shade, which is a yellowed ivory shade. This one is smooth. It has great pigmentation. It's going to be great for highlighting for lighter skin tones. Now we're moving on to a pinky purple tone nude shade. This is going to be great for blending in the crease, especially for light to medium skin tones. Then we have a caramel beige color. This one is a little bit light, so it's great for light to medium skin tones for blending or for use as a highlight for darker skin tone. And then we have a neutral, deeper brown shade. This one has a gray undertone, so it will work with a variety of skin tones, and you can use it for blending in the crease or building up dimensions such as a contour in the eye socket or even on your face. In the second row, we have a darker, more espresso brown shade. This one, again, is great for deepening up the crease, for using for contour in the eye or even contour in the face. Then we have a matte cool tone pink shade. It's a very pale pink shade. You can use it for a highlight or to blend all over the lid. It is a very pale shade, so it's not the best for dark skin tone. Then we have a deep burgundy shade. It's a purple undertone. It's great for deepening up the crease if you want to sway away from dark browns or blacks. You just want to have a nice cool tone purple in the crease. Then we have a deep slate gray shade. This one is also great for veering away from black or to use in a smoky look. Then we have a deep cool tone blue shade. It has a little bit of purple in it. It's a really beautiful shade again for doing dark smoky looks, and it has good pigmentation. Now we have a gray toned taupe shade. This is a deep taupe and you can see a lot of gray in it. This again is great for smoky looks or just deepening up the crease. And then next to that we have a light gray shade. This one is more of a cement gray shade. Again, it's a neutral tone shade. It's great for smoky looks. It doesn't come off too blue, so it's good for those all over gray smoky eyes. And then we have a dark gray tone brown shade, which is beautiful. It's a deep espresso brown and it's great for deepening up the crease area. So here we have a look at those shades in the palette. These again are cool tone mattes, so you're going to see more purple and blue undertones and neutral undertones in this palette, and it's a beautiful palette if you are into cool tone nude shades. Moving on to number 8, the Bright Editorial palette, and this one has all your bright neon type of shades. It's really colorful, so if you're into matte bright shades, here is the one for you. We're starting out with the matte white. This is a pure white shade and it has decent pigmentation. It's not the best white I've ever seen in my life, but it has good pigmentation and it blends really nicely onto the skin. Then we have a sour apple green shade. It's a bright neon green yellow tone shade. It's really intense. It's beautiful. It's not for the tame of heart. It's definitely an intense green, like a neon green, sour apple green shade. It is beautiful and it builds up really nice, especially for a color like this. Next to that, we have more of an apple green shade. This one is also very intense and bright and in your face. The pigmentation is nice. It needs some building up, but it still shows up pretty nicely for such a bright shade. Next to that, we have an aqua teal shade. This one is a blue tone seafoam teal. It is really gorgeous. And then in the next row, we have a bright magenta pink shade. This one has beautiful pigmentation. Doesn't take a lot to build up, and it's really, really bright and intense. I really love this shade. Next to that, we have an orange tone shade. It is bright. It is intense. It's like an orangey red shade. It is not too orange and too big bird orange. It's like a wearable bright orange. It is beautiful, builds up really nice, has great pigmentation as well. Then we have the yellow in the palette, which is a matte bright sunshine yellow. It has decent pigmentation and builds up really nice, and yellows can be tricky, and this one does apply really nicely on the skin. Followed by this amazing bright sea blue. It is such a beautiful bright blue and it has great pigmentation. Then in the third row we have this bright apple red shade. This one again has great pigmentation. It builds up really nice for a red. It's just gorgeous. Next to that we have kind of a purpley burgundy wine shade. It's not like a deep burgundy, but it is a little bit deeper. It's like a deep pinky red shade. I don't know how to describe it other than that. And then next to that we have this intense magenta purple shade. Oh my god. It's a little powdery, but it has great pigmentation and it builds up beautifully. And then next to that we have a deeper blue shade. It's a bright blue, but it's a little bit deeper than the other blue in the palette. And here you have that rainbow of joy on my arm. All these colors are beautiful. They're a little bit powdery, but they build up nicely. They have great pigmentation, especially for bright colors and neon bright colors. They really build up and pick up really nicely on the skin. Now we're moving on to the 04 Dark Matte Palette, which is filled with kind of fall themed matte shades. These are really beautiful. They're warm tone shades, and we're going to start out with the first row, which has a deep caramel brown shade. It is a warm tone shade. It's perfect for darker skin. It works well to warm up the crease, to add depth and dimension, and you can also use it on the skin as a contour. Next to that, we have a deeper, more espresso brown. This one also has a warm undertone, and it's just a beautiful brown shade. Next, we have a dirty red shade. It's like a burnt cranberry red shade. It's a very unique shade. I don't see this very often. It's a understated red. It has a touch of orange, and it's great for fall looks to add that pop of red. Then we have this orange toned, a very vivid orange toned brown shade. It looks like a burnt orange nude. It's great again for fall looks. Moving on to the second row, we have this burnt burgundy cranberry shade. Again, this one has more purple to it, so it's another great fall shade. All these shades are great fall shades. This one just has a little bit more purpley red to it. Next to that, we have a more intense purple nude shade. This one is almost like a burnt grape shade, and it's more purple than the other shade before that has more red to it. This one is definitely a dirty burnt purple. Then we have a bright orange tangerine shade with good color payoff. You do have to build it up a little bit, but it is a beautiful bright pop of yellow orange. Then the next shade is a deep burnt orange. This is a true orange shade, and it's really, really beautiful as well. Great pigmentation. And then in the third row, we have this really deep navy shade with some purple to it. It's a really beautiful dusty blue shade. It's like a nautical blue. And then we have to build that one up because it does apply a little bit sheerly. And then next to that, we have a deeper, more true blue shade. This one again is a navy blue color. As you can see, the blue in this is a little bit stronger than the other one. The other one definitely has a purpley undertone, like a cool purple undertone. Then next to that, we have this forest green shade. It applies a little bit sheerly. It does take some work to build this guy up. And then last up, we have this olivey brown shade. It definitely has a green olive tint to it, but it's a brown shade. Again, great for fall, and it has decent pigmentation. And here are the eyeshadows in this palette. Again, they're all fall shades. It's a perfect fall or warm tone matte palette. It's great for those of us that love that bright orangey toned neutral shade.
Alright, so hopefully you guys found these swatches helpful. Again, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can see future videos from me. And until my next video, I'll talk to you soon. Bye!